Hello everybody, Chaz Larch here with another Fix It For You in my little workshop, and we've got a Denon DAB Tuner CD player amplifier combination unit. It's an RCD-M39DAB, and it's something I just picked up off of eBay because it had an interesting fault on it in that it doesn't power on. But before I continue, I just want to say a big thank you to all my subscribers for clicking that old button and subscribing. I thought I'd celebrate it by putting a little sign at the back of the video here, and to say thank you for watching, just in case I forget, and shows you 2050 at the moment subscribers. So thanks very much, really appreciate the support, and let's hope we can grow the channel a little bit more day by day. Right, let's get into this and see what we're doing. Run the titles. Okay, so here we are inside the unit. Quick little look round at the sub power supply, which is at the top here. Can't see any capacitors which have exploded or lost their contents. There's some more big capacitors down here on this sub switching panel, and there's nothing there. Anyway, all the plugs and sockets seem to be correct. That one doesn't look quite as though it's in as much as it should be. It should be in there. It wasn't quite plugged all the way in. I wonder, that wouldn't possibly be the end of it, would it? Oh, hang on. Always works better if you actually plug it in. I remember when I was taking the back off, I unplugged it there. Right, so let's try it again. I think it's going to be exactly the same. Yeah, power lights flashing on and on off, on off, on off. So I think what we need to do is to have a look at the power supply and make sure that all the supply rails are right or not. Right, well, it's quite a few days later, and I've been busy doing other things. But anyway, back to this Denon and its fault. Anyway, this flashing red light on here indicates that there has been a fault, and it took me a little while to work out what it was. I scrolled through the manual and zip past the page that tells you. But basically, to identify what the fault is, you need to bring up the processor's memory, which displays a fault indicator on here. Otherwise it's basically just in protection mode. That's basically what this indicates. So the way to do that is power the unit off and then press and hold together the source and the skip forward button together, and then power it on. And you can see it's now come up with protection on there. Hopefully you can see that, and it says power underneath that, and basically that means it's had a power failure of some kind. It's a very generic fault, so it could be any one of the power rails has died or has been taken down by something, and in my experience that's usually the audio output stage. The way to clear this is basically to press the play and pause button for 5 seconds. So you press and hold that, and eventually the word clear will come up, as you can see there, and it then says no protect. So you've basically cleared the history. So having cleared the history, when we turn it off and then turn it back on again, it will come up with that. But if we power it off, give it a few seconds, power it back on, it should then either still show the error message, i.e. the flashing red light, which it's not. If it was, then that means the fault is a permanent power failure, so it gives you a good clue as to where to go after the fault, so by going to the power supplies. But in this case, as we can see, that flashing red light is not happening this time, so we should be able to turn it on and we should see some sort of normal display. and we should be able to change sources as we're doing there. If we go to disk, we should be able to open it up, and what that normally tells me then is that the power rails have all come up normally, so there is no actual fault with the power side of things. What's happened is, as I mentioned earlier, something has taken one of those power rails down, entered in protection mode and shut it down. So it's recognized it is a power failure, but the actual cause, that power failure is a symptom, the cause is something else. My guess is it's going to be the audio output stage. So let me power it off and reconnect some speakers, because I disconnected them while I was doing lots of checks. Let me plug these back in. Right, having done that, we should now be able to turn it back on. There we are, it's come on. Let's open the disc, let's put a disc in, see what it sounds like. If it sounds at all. Is it going to read the disc? Yeah, it's read the disc. Press play. And it's playing. Have we got any sound? No, no sound output. Now if we have a look at the service manual, the circuit diagram rather, we can see where the fault is, may or may not be. But one of the first tests with these Denons to do to identify where the fault is to plug your headphones in. Because if the headphones work, is a big clue. And it's working through headphones. And you see that when we plug in and disconnect the headphones, it says headphones out. If we plug them back in again, it will say headphones in. Okay, that's because it recognizes that we've plugged the headphones in electronically rather than just a mechanical switch. In a lot of the older systems, when you plug the headphones in, all you're doing is literally switching out the speakers in place of the headphones. So in this one, there's a separate part of the circuit for the headphones than the output stage. So that's a big clue, is that the fault is going to be probably in the actual output stage rather than the headphones themselves. Now let me just bring up the service manual and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this is, let me zoom out a little bit, this is the audio output stage. Okay, if we scroll across to this part here and have a look, we can get it on screen, we can see here that this is the audio, the speaker outputs over here, and they come through this relay, and this relay is controlled by this line here, pin 11. Okay, that tells it, and that's switched electronically by the processor. So where does this output come from? It comes from the audio board over here, and the headphone output, the headphone socket is, if my memory is right, somewhere down here. Yeah, headphones left and right output are here. Okay, so we've got the output from those headphones is coming from this amplifier here, IC72. It's a preamp, so the fault we're going to look at is going to be somewhere between the output of this IC72 and IC7, which is the power output stage on the left hand side of the motherboard there. So how are we going to determine that? Well, at the moment we're really going to have to be looking at what we can reach, because if we look at the board, it's pretty damn difficult to get in there and identify where the fault is. So we're going to have to basically go into there. My suspicion is that the output stage has failed. So it may be just as easy to take the whole thing out and just check those straight off. But if we want to actually check some signals, we've actually got to go in between there, because the actual headphone relay switch is down there. So the fault could be anywhere between these two panels if it's a break in the circuit. My guess is it's the output stage, which is basically hidden down there. We'll have to try and do some very basic checks first for signals there. So we'll leave it playing CD, as long as we don't need to tilt it sideways and upset the CD. Right, so this connector here, C-BAL, actually this is the input to the audio board from the volume control. I was thinking it was an output. It's not, because of course that goes into the input of the op-amp signal. So this is actually the output from the volume control, left and right. So it goes down through here to this op-amp, and then that feeds out to the headphones, but also goes down from here into the audio output stage. Now I'm guessing that probably because the headphones are working, this signal level is going to be right. As I said, if you open up a secondary copy and look at the layout board, you can see the board connections there on the amp board. So C-BAL is this one in the middle as you're looking at it. Let's just switch over to the overhead cam and I'll show you. Okay, so C-BAL is this connector in here. Okay, just in there. So that's the connector, and if we go back to this, one side of this is all going to be ground and the volume is going to be pin 1. So looking at this again, this thing with the overhead camera, we've got a lot of grounding pins on this side and I've got a red line on there. So if we put the scope onto that pin 1 there and bring the scope into view, so there we are. That's the output from the volume control. If I turn the volume down, that should disappear, which it does. If it turn back up, so we know that we've got audio signal getting into, so we've got signal coming in there. And so now the next thing to check is obviously if we get the signal to the audio output IC, which is hidden right down there below. My guess is it probably is. So as it's a single chip output stage, chances are the chip has actually failed. Now I can't remember if there's a way of getting at that. I think there is. I think you can actually disconnect it, bring it up, lay it sideways, and you should be able to then check it that way. To get at this board, we need to unplug various plugs. Now luckily some of these plugs have got little clips on them, so if you just squeeze the clip in and pull the plug, it comes out. Some of them, like this one on the top, hasn't, so again use your tools to unplug things. Another clip on this one, and then this has got a clip on it as well, so if you can reach it with fingers, even better. So, and then we've got a cable down there that comes up to the power board. Let's undo that. And there's a big one there. So I'm hoping that, having released those screws, I think there's a couple of, yeah, there's a couple of screws underneath which hold the bottom side of the circuit board on. Yeah. Now I do think Denon, when they built this, they actually designed it so that if the audio output stage blew, you could actually get at it and work on it without too much worry. Just a little jiggling past this front panel without having to unscrew it. Ha! I think we found the reason why there's no audio. The audio output chip's gone. Literally, somebody had this, took it apart, found the chip had blown, or used it for spare parts or something else. Well, if they'd have said that, other than when they put it on eBay, it just said could be a simple fault. Yeah, it would be. If they'd have mentioned that the audio output chip is not there. Annoying. So let's see if we can find an audio output chip for this. It's going to take me a while. Right, so here we are back with this M39 system, and look, I managed to get a chip, the right chip. So hopefully this one will work. Let's fit it in and see what happens. Okay, the chip is fitted as well as I can make it. Various bits of print needed to be just teased around the legs because they were very badly come away from the board, but I've done that and found a couple of screws that will hold it in. In fact, when I was putting it in, the plastic cover came away from the actual hybrid chip itself, and there were some internal wires in there that looked like we're touching, so good job it did. So I moved them apart. We are now sort of ready to reassemble and test. Hopefully this is going to be a fix it and it's going to work. If it doesn't, well, I don't know, because if the chip failed because of something else which I haven't checked, then we could be in for losing a chip, which took a while to get. I don't know about getting another one, but it's a possibility, but even if it's going to be worth it. But we will reconnect it all up. Let me connect the speakers in while I've got it around this way. I've never bought a cloned chip that I'm aware of. I've bought chips and they've worked, so just have to hope that this isn't one and it does. But if it is one and it does, well, okay. Don't know how long it will last, but there we are. Let's wait and see, eh? Let's think positive that we bought something genuine as a genuine spare part. And then we'll get some screws to go in it as well. So this one is a self tapper, so let's put that in there. That's the one. And then there are some threaded ones that go underneath. That's these two. Okay, so quick double check, make sure I've connected everything correctly. All the wires and plugs are in, so there we go. One power cable. So if that chip fails, it should go into power fail protection mode almost immediately, or there'll be smoke and bangs and all kinds of stuff. Here we go. Power on. Power on, iPod, reading. Okay, so let's put some music in. There's no device, let's put that in there. Reading. Fixed. It was the output chip and it is now working. Well, better turn that down because we'll get a content match on that one, because that's jazz music. I ought to have another one. Let's go source CD, disc, reading, and play. That's playing that. So there we are. So somebody obviously had this for repair at some stage, or they got this and nicked the chip out of it to repair something else. Can't see the point of doing that, but perhaps the unit that they wanted to take the chip out of, or this to put into something else, or perhaps they just had this, diagnosed the chip was faulty, couldn't find a replacement. Who knows? I've got it, it's fixed. I'm quite happy with that. Right, so not a bad little buy. Plays all kinds of things. It's got RDS. I better put a radio into it as well, an aerial into it as well. Let's see if we can actually get radio working, because it's DAB and FM. So let's go source tuner.
Water company shareholders put their hands in the pockets,
Yep.
and are going
Tuner's
to put
working fine.
£104 billion worth of their money, which we will then slowly repay to them over.
Okie dokie. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.